So let's start with basics. Some background about me. I'm working with Lucene since 2004. It wasn't love at first sight. When I first used it, I thought, now I cannot live without it. I use Solr since 2007. With Marek, we founded Solr.pl. I don't know if you know about it, if you ever saw it. It's a non-commercial website focused on providing information and way to share our experience and help the community using Solr for now, maybe in the future Lucene and Elasticsearch. My area of expertise is right now I'm working as a consultant in Solr and Lucene. I'm an author of Solr 3.1 cookbook published by Pact Publishing, and I'm a father, husband of sometimes a StarCraft 2 player and a gardener after hours. So that's what about me. What I will try to cover today is how you should read and understand explain information, how to make the information readable not by experts but by people who start to use Solr. More about it later. The context of the presentation I'm giving will be how to make the complicated explains easier to use, easier to understand, and to make the best out of it, and how to make explain other parameter even easier. Now, before we go further, I have some questions to you. How many of you use the explain information returned by Solr? Okay. How many of you use the explain other parameter? 1, 2. Marek, you're not counting. Okay. Then the next question, and maybe the most important of it, how many of you think that the explain information is easy to use and easy to understand? I'm not counting you. Okay, no one. So, okay, I'm not going to take the laptop and walk out. That's the right place where I should be. So, this is a typical use case. This is actually a search result screenshot from Amazon. I don't know if it's American or British Amazon. With Solr, some few example books. And the typical user questions are, why this document was found on the list? Why was it there? Why this document wasn't found? It's the other question that you usually hear when you would talk with your clients, talk to your boss, talk to your marketing department, when you do your search application. The next question you may hear is why this document is higher than the other one in the result list. That's also a common question when you use boosting, when you make your user experience, when you try to make it better. And why the result looks like this, it's a common question. Hey, why why those documents were found? Why? And what do? We can try to add bursts to the queries and look how it changed. We can try to modify it by hand, but we can also look at the explain information and look, okay, this is the things that influence the score of those documents are here. We can change this, that, the other parameters, maybe add something, maybe change the data, and we will see how this affects. And to answer all those questions, we said, okay, maybe we will make something to make our life easier, and that's how Explain Solr.pl is born. Okay, it's still in the, it's going to be born actually, but it's working. At least we will see how. So, let's look at the typical example of a query. The query was made against the example Solr server 3.3, as I recall. You see a Q parameter with a single term, this max parser, some query fields, name with bust, description with bust, some bust function with price, And the most important, debug query turned on and the indent turned on. What you see in the result returned by Solr is one of the parts, except from the documents returned, is the explain information. Some magic numbers, some magic sums, products, busts, IDF, query norms, and so on. So let's get to maybe some technical information first. So some theory about the TF-IDF similarity right now, because, okay, later. So what's term frequency is? Anyone knows? Okay, that's good. Marek cannot, thank you. Yeah, so the term frequency is the number of times the terms appears. In the document, the higher the appearance of the term in the document, the higher the boost will be. The impact of the score, the impact on the score will be higher if the document contains more of the term. The next thing is the inverse document frequency. May I see your hands? Who knows about it? Okay. More. And this tells about the number of documents, and the rarer the term is, if I correctly say it, forgive my English, the higher the boost will be for the given score, given query. The next thing are the normalization factors, the query norm. Anyone? Oh, it is. Okay. The query norm is the parameter, no, it's a part of the scoring that lets you compare scores between queries. If you would turn query norm, you can't compare the scores between the queries you do. This lets you do this. The next thing is the field norm. It's a field normalization factor. Anyone? Okay. So with index time boosts and the field and some field factors based on the terms appearing in the document, this is merged together to the score of the document. And the last thing is the boosts of the query and the documents boosts. So the query boosts, almost everyone I think knows about it, and the index time boost, I think that's a similar thing. So let's look at the explain information again. This is the same explain information we saw a minute ago, but this time the things I talked about a second ago is highlighted, okay, bolded. As you can see, the explain shows some information for us. On the top of the explain, you can see the score of the document for the given query. It's 1.677 and so on. Next, Solr, Lucene, told us that the score is a sum of the next two parameters, the next two parts. So the 0.6488 and this, it hurt. And the 1 dot, if you sum it, it should match. At least that's my experience. So what next? Let's start with the bottom line. So this part of the scoring is actually a product of the function query you saw earlier at the query. It's a poll float for price with a const 1.5. It's a product of this function, a bust, which we didn't actually specify, so Solr used the default one, and a query norm, so the normalization factor to compare the scores between each other. And that's what about the function query. The next thing is the actual query for the terms. So you can see that there are two parts of it. One is almost one. It's the query weight for the DDR and the boost of 1,000, sorry. You can see the IDF there, the inverse document frequency for the document frequency of 3 and the maximum number of documents in the index 17, and the query norm, which, if you look at it, is the same for the whole query. So for the things here, it should be the same. The next thing is the field weight, and it's for the index time boosts and so on. It's the term frequency, inverse document frequency, and this time not the query norm, but the field normalization factor. And it's like this. Solr also tells you about the term frequency, as similar with this, the document frequency the maximum number of documents, the field name, and the document ID, as I recall. Document ID? Yeah, it should be like that. So that's how a simple explain looks like. But things in real life aren't as simple as that. The users who use explain information rarely see this kind of explained. It's typical. You have a whole page of explain information. The query is much more complicated. So this is a not much more complicated example. It's a more complicated example, a bit. So if you look at this explain information, you would see, what the? Oh, but it's not scary, not yet. You can look at some factors. You can see what is going on. But as we look further, what the? Okay, so. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder and harder. What can we do about it? Nothing much if we are not committers of Lucene and Solr. Yeah, that's a question for a panel at the end of the conference. Will it change and will it be lighter to parse it? Otis? So that's what we get in real life. As you can see, it's not that complicated too. We have experience of seeing explain informations at the clients that are 5, 4, 6 pages because the queries are enormous. And if you look at your queries, sometimes you can also see this kind of explains. And the client comes to you and say, hey, I need it fast. I need the answer fast. Why this document is here, and why the second document is on the second position, not on the third, and so on. And this is why we did something like that. So when you go to explain Solr.pl, you can see a simple web application. You click New Explain, and you paste your explain information. You can also make some explain not visible to the other users. You can some privacy. If you would like it, and you just click Create Explain, and what you see in the result is the first thing. The first things first. So you see some documents, some information from Explain Solr.pl. One thing, please note that this is pre-alpha version, and it's not working as it should. There are not all informations included. Not all functionalities have been developed yet, but we're working on it. We tried to do it till the conference. We didn't make it. We are still working, and so on. So you see that there were some 3 found documents. What you see further is something how scoring is being calculated at what was the score composition. As you can see, this is a parsed explain information with some additional data visualized. So you can see how the matches in some fields were gathered together and how they are influencing the score. You can, this is another example for the explains. As you can see, this is the other document in the query. This is the other document, the next document. Those pie charts differ a bit. They will be a bit different in the final version, but I will talk about it in a minute. So that's how Solr explain right now works. Let's see. maybe I'm talking not about real-life applications, so let's see one thing. It's actually an example of a bug in explain Solr.pl because this part shouldn't be here. Marek, you know it shouldn't be here, yeah? It's actually a try to parse the explain information from Solr 4.0, but as you see, it didn't it didn't do very well. It should be the explain is not designed for this screen resolution, so that's why the table on the left is okay. I won't be a host, and won't tell fuck up. So that's how the first information. Here is something different. As you can see, it works. This is something I showed you earlier. So this is another explain, and the final one. At least I think it's the final one. Yes, it's something. So what you will be able to do right now. Back. Okay. So what you will be able to do right now is view the explain information in human readable form. We think that for the start, it's not much what we did right now, but we will try to develop more. Right now, you can easily recognize the most influencing elements of the scoring process. You can try to answer your questions from your client faster, easier. Maybe it will be lighter for you to work. Maybe you will have more time to drink beer, wine, kava, or eat some tapas, and so on. More things will come in the future. We have some plans. We also would like to hear from you. What do you want us to include in this? So I thought this is somewhat relevant to the conference. Yes, it's compatible with Java 7, but only because it's Ruby on Rails. So yeah, just a quick reminder. So we have some plans for the future. Right now, we are only supporting Solr 3 and its variants because the explain information, it changes with Solr a bit from Solr to Solr, but it changes, especially with the new flexible similarity functionalities, though this explain changes. We would like to have some additional visualization of the data. We are concentrating on functionalities. The ones we are concentrating right now is the query problem analysis. We have some clients who we are only consulting, and they have problems with why this query doesn't work, what should I do. We would like to help them by automating the process of answering the questions a bit, at least a bit. Maybe there are some things that they can answer themselves without having us to do the analysis of the queries. The second thing is connected to the first one, so it's a query syntax analysis and explanations. Maybe for the technical guys like you, like me, it's not a problem to use, for example, a Solr HTTP API, but for the users out there, it can be difficult. Sometimes explaining how these max work, or edismax, or even a standard query parser and handlers can be difficult, and people would like to have something more, and we will try to get them. Query time analysis and visualization, it's not achievable without some modifications, because in the explain information and the results returned by Solr, you can only see which components have been used and how much milliseconds or a part of time how it was used. We are planning to overcome it and make a patch and commit it, make it. And the last thing right now is the results comparison between cores or instances. Actually, that won't be matter if it's in a new core, it's a new instance, or sorry, or it's the same instance but two different queries. The same will happen. You will paste two explain informations, and you can you will be able to compare it. In the very distant future, we would like to do an application that will be deployed along Solr to visualize and analyze the query boostings actually and how they affect your queries and things like that. We think that this will be, from our perspective, this will be useful. We have another thing, we have a clients who want that, who will like to do that, and who will like some of those functionalities. What we would like you to ask for is, if you happen to have a sophisticated explain information, please send us. We need some test data, more test data to make the explain Solr.pl more proof for errors, to add more functionalities. And if you have an idea what can be implemented in Solr and explain Solr.pl, let us know. You will have contact information for us. We are easily findable, so that's not a problem. Things to, I'm a fast one. Okay, so a bit of wrap up. The explain Solr.pl should be available probably at the end of this month, maybe in the mid of the next month. We will release it to the public. Code will be released as open source, publicly accessible on GitHub soon after the initial release. And there is Java version of the explain Solr.pl planned. Actually, the Ruby on Rails we did, Marek did most of the time, is some kind of proof of concept that it can be done. We can do it if there are enough attention to it. If people will use it and find it usable, then we will do the Java version, because we think that most clients that use Solr and Lucene use Java. And if they use Java, they probably want the application deployed alongside of Solr and so on. So that's how it goes, at least. We'd like to, there are some sources, but I would like to thank two people for making this happen. I am two left-handed guy when it comes to the graphics and so on. So the first one is the guy that worked on the GUI, it's Łukasz, and the other guy, it's Depesh, who don't know if you have a contact with PostgreSQL and so on. He's a guy that have explained Depesh.com, similar functionalities, but with Postgres explain information, and the idea is from him. We took the GUI from him and so on. The contact information for me and for Marek in the Solr.pl domain and our Twitter accounts are visible. And the thing, do you have the first and the last thing? Do you have any questions? Yes, sorry, yes, Grant?
Back on your future things, can you talk a little bit more of the query comparisons across cores?
Yes. What we are planning to do, because it's not right now, it's not done. We didn't have the time to do it. We plan to allow users to compare the results for cores, for instances, or for queries. It doesn't actually matter, because when you paste the two explain informations, what we try to do is first match the unique IDs of the documents, make some parsing, make some objects, and then we will try to get the users the visualization how the same objects are in the different queries. So when you have two cores or two queries with similar data and with some different queries, you can compare how the query behave on a given set corpus of data. So we think that this will be much more usable than the information we have right now, because that will allow users to compare the results and see, okay, I have, on this instance, I have these documents on the first position, second position, and so on. So maybe will help in what you said, what Otis said, in the search experience for users. Maybe it will be lighter to make some good queries and so on. Yes, the next question was here, yes? Okay, the question is if we are planning to, if I understand right, correct me if I'm wrong, if we plan to release some handler or something like that to Solr to integrate the explain to the explain visualization to the results. Actually it's a good idea, we thought about it. Yeah, it's some kind of a future plan. Yeah, that will be noted and we will be trying to work on that. It's actually, I think that if the application will be used, yeah, that's a good road to go. Maybe even integrated with Solr if the committers and the community will be happy with it and the code will be stable and so on. So maybe it's a good road to integrate with Solr. As it will be open source, we won't charge it, so it's for the community, not only for us. I saw there was a next question. Right? Or not? Actually, the question was that there was a Java version coming and if it will be a standard deployed application, yes? Actually, we didn't think right now if it will be a standard web application or it will be integrated as a, for example, Solr contrib or something like that. Yeah, we will be listening. If you want a handler, that's a good point too. So I was a bit fast. Sorry for that. My first presentation, and I was a bit nervous. Still am. But thank you very much for coming. Thank you for hearing.